When knowledge and creation are cast as sediment, we find meaning emerging in streams of entities and fields of materials. We make with them, forming bits together and mixing energies, accumulating. Such sediment can be represented, but might also be performed. We might note it through words as abstractions of things, silted granules of iron, black gray, settled over sandy bottom of creek bed, reflecting the elements, like metaphors. Or we might cast it through shifting modes, like
The
ocean
prosumer
swells,
is personal.
where visual patterns and breathing sounds.
I'm drifting back to 1974.
Lev Manovich says that
to my dad's
associative
sabbatical,
or
when
spatialized
we put
narrative
sediment
in
traps
the
in
20th
lakes
century was
up and down the
a
West
minor
Coast.
cultural form.
My dad invented a sediment
Real
trap with a
culture of the
device
20th
for
century
marking time.
spoke of linear chains,
The intervalometer would periodically
aligning
drop a layer of
with
Teflon
industrial
powder
society.
in the collection tube.
What if
We would place the
instead
traps in lakes,
we imagine
then
roads
return
that
years later to
compose
retrieve them,
with
to
arrangements
study the
and
sediment.
loops,
The prosumer is about boundaries,
casting boundaries.
or really about how
I'm
boundaries
drifting
can
back
be
to
metaphors for
1974
emergence.
to my dad's sabbatical,
As
when
Heidegger
we put
reminds
sediment
us,
traps
a
in
boundary
lakes up
is
and down
not
the
that
west coast.
at which something stops.
My dad invented a sediment trap
The
with a
boundary is that
device
from
for
which
marking
something
time.
begins
The
its essential
intervalometer would
unfolding.
periodically drop a layer of Teflon powder
Point
in
2.
the collection
The
tube.
prosumer shapes
We
materials.
would place the traps in lakes
3 years
then
later,
return
one high
years
school
later
summer,
to
I
retrieve
built
them,
intervalometers,
to study
working the
the
lathe,
sediment.
engaging the motor,
The sediment is
easing
about
the
boundaries,
bits into
or about
plastic.
how boundaries can be
I
metaphors for
remember the
emergence.
steady circling,
Heidegger
the making
reminds
by
us
taking
a
away.
boundary is not that at which something stops.
I
A
bought my
boundary is
first
that from
antique
which
bike
something
with the lathe
begins,
money, a
its
50s
essential
cruiser. It
unfolding.
probably weighed 60 pounds.
Layers unfold as
folded
alternatives
in
to
half on a
sequential
hill
composing
a few years
as a
later.
wing-splitting cocoon,
I should have known
or
better.
flower brilliant colored and tissue
I was
thin,
taught to love
shifting
machines,
from bud,
to care for them,
emerging through.
to find an engine
image.
leak by the smell,
Point two,
antifreeze,
sediment
sweet,
gathering the
or the
world.
almost toasty edge of
2
burning
years
oil.
later, one high school summer,
I
I
was
built
taught to feel that.
intervalometers, working the lathe, engaging
To
the
listen.
motor, easing the bits into the material. I remember the steady circling, the making by taking away. I bought my first
That
antique
bike
bike
crank was
with the
wrong
lathe money,
for a long
a
time.
50s cruiser.
It needed
It
lubricating,
probably weighed 60 pounds.
rebuilding. It
It
needed
folded in
attention.
half on a hill a few years later.
The
I
prosumer
should
is
have known better.
concrete. It
I was
cracks
taught to
like
love
metal
machines,
under
to
stress.
care for them,
It shapes
to find
something
an
out of
engine
nothing
leak by the smell,
and makes interventions
antifreeze,
through time,
sweet, or the
collecting what
toasty
is
edge,
offered by the
burning
winds
oil.
and the tides.
I was taught to listen to them, to feel.
I'm talking about a making
That bike
brought
crate was
through
seasoned for
layers,
a while,
from
wanting
binary
rebuilding.
switching to coded
Rusting.
collections of objects to moving
Sediment is
images
concrete.
like
It
beads,
accretes
making
and gains
statements that
edges.
sound
It takes
much
shapes
like heart,
out of the always
valve
emerging,
closing, and
gathering
opening,
them in layers.
or painting,
It makes interventions
wall,
through time,
or words
collecting what is
scratched on
offered by the
tablet with
winds
graphite
and the
wrapped
tides.
in wood,
I'm talking
dipped
about a
in
making
finish
rock
and
through
pressed
accumulating.
with its
On
value.
screen, the strata
to
are stacked as pixelated surface yields to desktop metaphor to bundled bits laid over one another as language,
We pencil in our
We can
timelines,
trace the levels
tracing,
down or up,
tracking,
starting perhaps
the
with
report,
binary ones
the
and
resume,
zeros beneath
profile
coded
essay.
objects and events, to collect
Sort
in
out
this
the
format
sequences and
or
try to
file,
bind them
or
together.
digital waves that sound
I'm a
much
bio
like heart
major.
valve
I'm business.
closing and opening,
I'm poli-sci.
or look like light painting
Together we take
on
up the
cave
instrument,
wall.
squeeze its
Off
laminated
screen,
length
the
between
layers
the
of
fingers
time and material
pour
are also accrued
language
through words,
until
scratched on tablets with graphite wrapped in wood.
the prosumer
Dipped in
becomes a
finish,
metaphor
impressed
for all
with
meaning
its value,
where, as Andrew
to
Pickering
be.
reminds us, the center of gravity lies at the intersection of human and material agency.
Together, we take up the instrument,
Point 3.
squeeze its
The
laminated
prosumer
light
works
between
in every
fingers,
mode.
and pour language
The way ideas flow in rivulets
Sediment
up a windshield,
becomes a metaphor for all meaning making, where,
droplets lifted
as
back
Pickering
towards
reminds
source
us,
by
the
motion
center of
or
gravity
word.
lies at
The
the
labor of the
intersection of
prosumer
human
is
and
craft,
material agency,
and the logic sparks
where
across
materials
darkened
accumulate,
splits.
emerging through time
Hydraulic
together,
tensioners
the
on a
person
timing
and the
chain
machine.
of dampened sound.
Hydraulic tensioners
Pure
on a
metal
timing chain,
sings a higher
dampened sound.
pitch.
Pure metal sings a
What
higher
happens when the
pitch.
screen becomes the space for
Point 3.
composing?
Sediment mixing
Then word
materials.
becomes one
The
among
way
many
ideas
modes.
flow in rivulets of a
Then
windshield.
computing becomes
droplets
performing.
lifted back towards
The
source
zoom
by
tool
motion forward.
translates
The composition of
layers.
sediment
The
is
smallest
emergent,
granules
and the
become the
logic
scale
sparks across
through which we
darkened
witness
splits.
the world.
What happens when the screen
Then,
becomes the
zoomed
space of
out,
composing?
The sediment
Then word
is the memory
becomes one
of
among
the
many
earth.
modes. Then
It's best
computing
not to be
becomes
measured
performing.
by what we're called,
Then the detritus of the
but
desktop
by what we
becomes the
do.
tracing of our own movements with
Keith
materials,
Sawyer
and the
says our
moment
making
when the
must
mouse
be
becomes the
not too
knowledge of the
rigid,
world.
but not too
Latour
loose.
tells us that
The
events
critical
are not
balance
like
for
tiny
innovation
racks of
is at
clothes
the
in a
edge
store,
of
small,
chaos.
medium, large,
Point
extra
4.
large. Labels seem
The
rather
prosumer
confusingly
pulls
distributed.
like memory.
They wane and wax
The
pretty
theory
fast. They shrink
the smell
or
of bread,
enlarge at
maybe
lightning
ginger
speed.
tinged,
It
or
is through the
yeasty
staging
at
of the
least,
zoom effect
warm from
that
the
the
oven,
social
because
social
making
theorists entered
is also
the
reaching
scene.
backwards.
The zoom
We're
tool
all
translates
intervalometers
layers. The smallest
within
granules
streams
become the
of
scale
sediment,
through which we witness
gathered from
the
sounds
world.
like
Then,
stones
zoomed
or
out,
words
the sediment
like iron
is the memory
gone
of
fairy
the earth.
in rusted bearings. Prosumer time is
Point
not
4.
just left to right,
Sediment memory.
but up and
The
down.
theory is
It's
the
a
smell of
blending
bread,
that
maybe
ceases to be
ginger tinged
sequence
or yeasty
and
at
becomes
least,
instead
warm from the oven.
space,
Because making is
playing
also
out
reaching
like
backwards.
sand, flying
We're all
flowing,
intervalometers
alluvial,
within streams of
slow
sediment
combing,
gathered from
for a
sounds
moment,
like stones,
forgotten.
like words, like iron gone ferric,
Final
and
point
rusty
/
bearings.
first point.
Time is not
The
just left to
prosumer
right,
has nothing
but
to
up
prove.
and down. It's a
As
blending that
Nietzsche
ceases
tells
to be
us, we
sequence
believe
and
that we know
becomes
something
instead
about things
space,
themselves
playing out
when we
like
speak
sand
of trees,
flying and flowing,
colors,
alluvial,
snow,
slow combing,
and yet we
for a
possess nothing
moment.
but metaphors
forgotten.
for things.
As Nietzsche tells us,
When we
believe
recognize
that we
the
know
makings
something
of
about
thought in the
things
material
themselves
world,
when we speak
linear
of
time
trees,
begins to
colors,
loop
snow,
into thing
and yet
event.
we possess nothing but
Noun,
metaphors
verb.
for things.
The prosumer no
Keith
longer
Sawyer
asks
says
us
our
to
making
stay
must be
plain.
not too rigid, but not too loose.
When the blossoms
The
are
critical
coming,
balance for
we feel
innovation
their forward
is
turning.
at the edge
The dogwood
of
bud,
chaos.
a capsule blast of papered thought.
When we recognize the
waiting to
makings of
unfold.
thought in the material world,
We compose
linear
because we
time
too are
begins to
turning
loop in the
the
forming
soil
of noun and
and
verb,
the eye toward flower,
everything and event.
making arrays in the face
Sediment
of
no
the
longer
abyss.
serves to record a record of the past.
Let the value
but
of
to
field
mark
1
each moment
be
of mixing.
performing.
When the
Let field
blossoms
2
are coming,
be time.
we feel their forward turning.
Let the value
dogwood
of our
bud,
field
a capsule
be
blast of papered thought,
becoming.
waiting to unfold.
Are you gonna be one of the ones that puts the lights out? Me too. I talked to Lynn. She's gonna be here too, so there'll be 3 of us. Well, it's been very nice for you to give me the time, and thank you again.
Beautiful. So exciting. Thank you for letting me record it. It really feels so tribal. Like so elemental. So human.